G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of my FC24 Chelsea Career Mode series. In this episode, we're going to be versing Everton, and that was the game that we had this morning. I woke up bright and early, 5 a.m, and I was really hoping when I turned on the game that Chelsea weren't going to ruin the rest of my day. And thankfully, for the most part, the headlines were positive as we got a 6-0 victory. That's right, 6 goals against Sean Dyche's men. It was a result and a performance that I definitely was not expecting. But before we get into all the big headlines and storylines that came from this game, make sure you smash that like button and support this series. It's going to be going all the way until the end of this Premier League season, and what a season it has been, especially in real life. The title race is really heating up between Liverpool, Arsenal and Manchester City. Definitely something I'm keeping my eye on because it is absolutely captivating. I obviously wish Chelsea was involved in it, but you know, we have to acknowledge the shortcomings that we've had so far this season. And Pochettino, in his post-match press conference, was posed the question because of that, Noni Madueke, Nicholas Jackson, and Cole Palmer penalty incident. He pretty much said that this is a very young and immature group, and for us as the entire world to get a glimpse into that and witness some of the dressing room, behind the scenes was very interesting. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But first, I want to get into the major headline that came out of this story, and it is, of course, ice cool, Cole Palmer. This guy is absolutely insane right now. He is in world-class form, and I cannot lie. When we first signed this kid at the beginning of the season, I wasn't quite sure where he was going to fit into our team, because right from the beginning of this project, I always saw Modric on the left, Madueke on the right, and Nkunku in the cam, and then Nicholas Jackson as the number 9. But, of course, Nkunku, maybe to our benefit in hindsight, has been out the entire season, and that's allowed Cole Palmer to adapt and to soak up more of that responsibility. And obviously Madueke has been in and out of the side and hasn't exactly been able to make a name for himself in a Chelsea shirt yet, even though I thought he was very, very good today against Everton. But obviously Cole Palmer has come to West London and he has become the main man of the Chelsea Football Club, and it is truly something magical to behold. It's very reminiscent of players like Eden Hazard, where they just light up the Premier League, take the responsibility upon their shoulders and carry their team to remarkable things. Obviously, the reality is, and you all know this as Chelsea fans or footballing fans, that the football club has been struggling in many different departments, and it's a game where it's a team game and everyone needs to be pulling their weight and contributing if you want to succeed and get consistency and compete for trophies, which we haven't exactly done in the most fruitful way. But Cole Palmer, the first goal that he scored, the audacity, the ambition to take on players is something that is ingrained in this kid from Manchester, nutmegging the Everton defender and then playing a little 1-2 ball with Nicholas Jackson, receiving it back and then just having that composure and being so delicate with his left foot to just guide it into the bottom corner, beating Jordan Pickford. It really was something special. The type of goal that you just think of and you're like, there's no way you could pull this off in real life. It's something that you might do in FIFA, so to speak. But in this game against Everton, I really liked the team performance. We looked super balanced in our overall display, especially with Conor Gallagher and Moises Caicedo in the defensive pivot. Says something a lot about maybe how Enzo Fernandez fits into this team, because I really liked what we saw. And it's one of those things, after an absolute thrashing, you do have to ask yourself, do we praise the team that won or do we criticize the team that lost for playing so poorly and allowing the team to get that many goals? I do think Everton got the tactics wrong. Sean Dyche definitely looked to play on the front foot, push high up the field, definitely wasn't sitting deep and being compact, and as a result that just allowed Chelsea, with our flair, with our skill, with our player positioning, to make those passes, create those triangles, make the transitions forward, pick our ways through the lines and then score goals ourselves. And as a result, Everton just didn't look like they had any solutions to what we were throwing at them. And that definitely was the case, not only for Palmer's second goal, where he receives the ball out wide from a Mudryk cross inside. Obviously, Jackson's the one that gets the shot where Pickford then has to parry it. And then Cole Palmer, as a central attacking midfielder, it is your job to always be on your toes, always be ready to receive the ball or pounce on it when it's in that attacking phase of play. And he did that, nodding it through for the second on his head. And then for the third goal, just capitalizing on a goalkeeping mistake. And the chip to get it into the net from that distance. Again, the composure of this guy is elite. I cannot emphasize that enough. But to score a perfect hat trick in that way, left foot header, right foot, it is incredible. Truly something to behold. And we as Chelsea fans should all be very grateful that we've got this guy at the club. And hopefully he's here to stay for many, many years. But of course, it didn't stop there. In the second half, he gets an opportunity and he is put onto the penalty shot. And that's where all the drama unfolds and where this dark shadow is cast over so many positives in this game. It was one of those things, unfortunately, when Alfie Gilchrist scores his goal late in the game, I really wanted to get more excited, but I just, obviously in the back of my mind, was thinking about the incident that happened on the penalty spot. Of course, it's the Palmer incident where he is clipped at his Achilles that the referee saw and decided that needs to be a dot shot. He points to the spot and then Noni Madueke and Nicholas Jackson rush over to the ball, not looking after their teammate, seeing if he's okay. They rush over to the ball, they snatch it up, and then they have an argument. And Nicholas Jackson and Noni Madueke knew that Cole Palmer was the penalty taker. Pochettino confirms that in his press conference that everyone in the team, everyone in the staff, everyone knows that Cole Palmer is the designated penalty taker. But instead of looking after their teammate and seeing if he was okay, they were more concerned, they were more selfish than everyone else in their team, and they thought, no, I want the goal, I want the responsibility, I want to be the one that scores. And to me, the ego that is required to not only think like that in that moment, but then continue, not just go down the wrong path, but be stubborn enough to continue down it, even though you know you're in the wrong, and to have an argument not only in front of the whole of Stamford Bridge, but the entire world. Social media was going absolutely off post-match, as you could all imagine. But to see Madueke get the ball, go to the penalty spot, and then have Conor Gallagher come over and have to say to him, no, this is not your moment. Cole Palmer is taking this shot. And to see him act so petulant and so childish and so immature, it really was disappointing to see. And I really do feel for Conor Gallagher, because as the skipper, he's thrust into the limelight and he has to take responsibility over something that should just never happen. It just should not be a conversation that ever happens on the football field in public. And unfortunately, it did. Thankfully, Cole Palmer is able to fend off Jackson and Madueke, and he takes the shot and he scores the fourth goal. But it was definitely not ideal to see Madueke acting in such an egotistical way and not thinking selflessly. And understandably, there's an aspect of it that I can appreciate and that I like, because these players obviously want to contribute, they want to score, they want to have the positive feelings and show that they are capable of being successful at this club. But at the same time, you need to understand, Cole Palmer, he's in top form. He's going for the Golden Boot. He's one of the top scorers in the Premier League, and he's a designated penalty taker. So for all three of those reasons, there is no excuse to act so petulantly in front of the whole world. So I'm glad Pochettino dealt with it the way that he did in the media post-match. Obviously, it's something that you could maybe throw some criticism at Pochettino for even happening to begin with, but I do sympathise with Poch. I understand that this is a very young group and there's a lot of egos involved, and it's a difficult undertaking, and I have to respect it. I don't like how a lot of the results have gone this season, given that he has been directly responsible for a lot of it. But the players, at the end of the day, are the one that go on the pitch and play the football. And if they're not delivering, then it obviously falls back on the manager. And yeah, it just becomes a shit show from there. And unfortunately, that is the big headline that I think everyone is going to be thinking about. And it's definitely going to create some tension and some negativity within the dressing room, that is for sure, which is completely unideal. But hopefully, Pochettino is able to take the analysis, take all the positives from this game, and then implement it into the next couple of games, because we had no injuries that we had to worry about. We've got players like Kani Chukwuemeka that are slowly being reintegrated and getting his minutes and sharpness up, which is good to see. And then, of course, we've got Manchester City in the semi-finals this week. And obviously, as you guys can see in the background, the simulation in the FA Cup semi-finals is taking place against Southampton. But Manchester City this weekend is not going to be an easy task, and I truthfully don't think we're going to progress. I can't see us, even though it's at Wembley, even though it's a neutral venue, I just don't see us beating Guardiola's men. They're just so experienced. They've got so many great players at their disposal, and yes, they may be tired after the game against Real Madrid in the Champions League. That may work to our advantage. I don't know. I really do think that Chelsea are going to have to play very, very well if we're going to make it into the FA Cup final. Because if we do and we win the Cup, that means we get Europa League football next season, which is going to be huge, because the chase for European football in terms of our league standings is actually working in a way that's very beneficial for us. But as we've seen in previous games where we drew to Sheffield and Burnley, where we dropped points in the dying stages, like I have no idea what to expect from the football club. Like, we are a basket case. Our form is so inconsistent that it really makes it frustrating to watch, because those were the two games that we should have easily won, got 6 points, and we probably would have been sitting comfortably in the top 6 game anyway. And Poch said that if we were more consistent throughout this season and capitalised on our chances, that we would have been competing for top 4. And maybe he's right, given some of the data and the analytics and our XG and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I don't really care what the stats say, what the possession is in each game. The only stat that matters is that scoreline. And our biggest problem this season is that we have not been able to score goals. And Nicholas Jackson in the game against Everton not just scored one for himself and celebrated amazingly, but the quality of the finish was very Diego Costa-like. It was very Didier Drogba-like. It was world-class finish. The cross from Cucurella out wide, doing very well, might I add, Cucurella, to keep the ball in and then deliver it into the striker, to take that touch, swivel on his left foot, to stay balanced enough to be able to keep possession of the ball, but then to swing his right foot and generate enough power, but more importantly, the accuracy to deliver it into the back of the net, I thought was absolutely amazing. And this is what's most frustrating about Nicholas Jackson, is that he does stuff like this. He does things in previous games with the link-up play and the touches and the darting runs in behind, as well as his hold-up play. There's so much that I love about this guy. But he just isn't clinical, and he makes clumsy mistakes, and he's just a little bit raw, so to speak. And as a result, I just don't think we can trust him in a Premier League campaign to lead the line for the Chelsea Football Club moving forward. And now that I've seen stuff where his ego sometimes gets the better of him, it does raise question marks over Nicholas Jackson. I'm not saying that we should get rid of him or dump him, unlike Raheem Sterling, but there's now a big question mark over his head. I still am of the belief that Chelsea are one elite striker away from being a very top team. I still think we need to go after someone like a Victor Osimhen to lead the line. But then again, if Pochettino starts to settle on a starting 11 that does consist of Cole Palmer sitting in that central attacking midfield number 10 role, and then, Mudryk on the left and Madueke on the right, then what happens to Nkunku when he becomes fit? Does he lead the line, or does he get onto the bench? And then how does he fit into the team if we do end up signing another new striker? So again, there's lots of question marks. I'm very intrigued to see what Pochettino and the club go forward with their transfer strategy. But I think the most important part about our run-in is that we are winning every single game in the Premier League season, so that we get a form of European football. To be honest, I'm not too concerned if it's Conference League or Europa League. there's a part of me that's actually more excited if we got Conference League, because it's a competition that Chelsea haven't won. So if we went into it, I'd be very confident that we would win it, and it would be another trophy to add into our very illustrious cabinet. But at the same time, if we do win the FA Cup, then we've got a trophy that Poch can be very happy and pleased by. But yeah, it's undoubtable that the talent and the quality is very prevalent in this Chelsea side. It's about Pochettino finding the right balance, finding the right quirks that's going to work to our advantage, because there's lots of players in this side that are very forward thinking. They contribute a lot in attack, but defensively they get a little bit lazy, or they aren't as ferocious or intense. And I think that is going to lead to either really positive things or some really negative things in our short to medium term future, because the pressure is definitely on Pochettino this season. I think if he doesn't succeed in the FA Cup and then fails to get European football, I genuinely can't see a future where the Chelsea fan base, like him and get on his side and cut him some slack, because the bare minimum coming into this season was getting top 6 football, in my opinion. Not having European football this year meant that he had more time with the players on the training pitch to develop them and mold them and shape them. These young guys, they're like clay. And Pochettino has a reputation for being that manager that is able to nurture young players and get them to be, top level and work really well in a side. The evidence is, of course, what happened at Southampton and then what happened at Tottenham more famously. But I don't know, if he doesn't accomplish those objectives, I think I might have to be Poch out. But at the same time, there's a part of me that's very apprehensive of doing that, because the club has so many problems going on behind the scenes, and what we so desperately crave is stability. And that comes from the manager, but of course, that decision comes from the ownership. Those are my thoughts on everything that's been going on, but more importantly, the Everton game that we just had in real life. Cole Palmer, again, still in the headlines, but it has a dark shadow that's going on in the background. Hopefully Pochettino can sort it all out, and we continue this good form moving forward. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next video. Come on, you Blues.